It worked. Thank you, Austin. Everyone say thank you, Austin. I absolutely hate the technical side of podcasting. I hate it with a burning passion, and I don't know how people do this. So let me text you, Austin, real quick and say thank you. Thank you. It worked. Sorry to bother you at lunch. Haha. Sorry to bother you at lunch. Okay. Phone going down. Thank you, Lord. Baby Jesus. Let's get into it, shall we? Welcome back, everyone, to Be Well with Alex. Today, we're going to be talking about eating when you're stressed or when you have food anxiety, whether that be you are in recovery or out of recovery and you're just trying to maintain a healthier lifestyle. When you're stressed, it really throws your whole appetite and emotional regulation out of whack. How do we combat that? There are some strategies that I'm going to share with you today that I've been very beneficial in my own life that I hope that you can benefit from as well. How this came about is I've been falling back into some bad old eating habits recently. The first red flag to me was pointed out by my boyfriend, Austin, the same one who fixed my webcam and my mic just now from afar. Austin, he's been with me from the start in my recovery. And even in the beginning of my recovery, he was eating all of my meals and snacks with me. As I've learned what's a good amount and a healthy amount for my body, he's learned the same. So he can kind of pick out when I'm starting to fall back into maybe smaller portions or leaving food on my plate. It's one thing if we're out at a restaurant and I'm served a huge portion of something and I want to take a little doggy bag to go. Like that's one thing. But for the portions I'm making at home, most of the time I know how much my body needs at this point intuitively, and he sees that as well. In these times of turmoil and stress, I feel myself even the eating disorder creeping back in and trying to come back into my life because I'm more susceptible to that. I tend to get very flustered during these times where I feel like I don't have control in my life. So I try and grab onto any form of control that I can, and that includes my eating habits. In fact, I would say it manifests mainly in my eating habits. With that, I will try to start controlling my portions more. I might slip back into old habits like leaving food on my plate when I don't need to. These old ideas of being overly full and sluggish, all of that, it starts to creep back into my mind and I start to risk underfueling again. Luckily, I have someone like Austin in my life to check me. My parents are the same way. If I'm at their house and they notice that, they would check me as well. Austin had to start checking me on that this past week. I was leaving bites of food on my plate. I was starting to creep back into smaller portions. And that made me want to do this episode because even if you are years along in recovery, sometimes those old habits can try and creep back in at your lowest points in life. So just wanted to throw that out there. Hopefully this is a beneficial episode for you wherever you are in your recovery journey or if you're just trying to maintain a healthier lifestyle. Before we get into that, let's get into our lemons and mangoes. My mango is that I've finally been getting back some phone screenings and interviews that I actually want. Without going into too much detail because my job search journey has been a long one, even though it's only been a month so far. I went to a job fair recently. I had a couple on-site interviews, but then I realized I was just going for positions out of fear of losing my financial security. I wanted a job that was a paying job again, and I was going to go for the next new shiny thing. Realized that's really not what I want, and I need to slow my roll and take my time getting a position I really do want in an environment that I will benefit from because I don't want to go back to the environment that I was in before. So with that, I did take a step back. I cooled my jets. I wasn't applying to every single job online, only the ones that I really truly wanted. And I've been getting phone screenings back for ones I really truly want. So I am in the candidate process. It's down 2 right now that I'm between. Think I know which one I'm going to go with. If they want me back, it's going to be a mutual understanding, but we'll see. You never know where the tide may flow. I feel like I manifested this one job in my life and I really hope I get it. The funny thing about that job is it's really not a step up in my career, but it's in an environment that I would be extremely happy to work in. And I think that's what matters most to me right now. The other one would be a huge step up in my career, so that would be pretty rewarding as well. And it's back in the hospitality industry, which I've worked in before and I enjoy. But this other one is in the recovery industry, still doing HR. And of course, out of my two passions, that one is stronger. So I gravitate towards that more. We shall see. I don't know which direction it will go in. Maybe I won't even get either. And then I'm back to square one, but that's okay. If I've learned anything in this past month, these past few weeks, there are plenty of jobs out there. I'll be able to find something else. I'm not stressing it like I was in the beginning. My lemon is also related to the job market. I just feel like it's rough out there right now. I have applied to over 100 jobs now. I keep a spreadsheet of everything, of the rec number, where I'm at in the application process, any of the notes on the job, whether it be salary, environment, commute, etc. I take notes on all that as well so I can compare and contrast. I have probably gotten denied from a quarter of them by now. And I feel like a lot of that is not due to my qualifications, but even just due to these AI feeders that they have now. If you don't have your resume tailored exactly to the buzzwords that they need, it'll get filtered through and a recruiter might not even see it. And I know that to be true because I went to a job fair a week or so ago and I spoke with UCF, which is one of the candidacies that I'm up for. I remember the recruiter there, I got an interview on the spot right there just based on my resume. They said that they felt I was almost overqualified for the position and they gave me an interview anyways. They ended up liking me and I'm going through the screening process further. But it's funny because I told them afterwards, my application online got denied. I don't know why. Then they were saying that it's probably I didn't have one or two buzzwords in there. So it's rough. It's really, really rough. All these tools, sure, they do help both talent acquisition and candidates in the process these days. I'm sure a lot of people use these AI tools, whether that be to prep their resume or cover letters or whether that be to screen them. But also it's taking out the human aspect of things. Efficiency is great, but I really appreciate the human element of things. And I think that's why I interview so well is because I'm really good at forming those people connections. Not as good as just running something through a feeder or going through the technical side of things. So yeah, that's where I'm at in my job search, in case you were wondering. Moving on. Let me get a metaphorical show of hands. If you are driving, please do not take your hands off the wheel. You are excused from this. How many of you guys struggle to eat when you're stressed? I'm one of them. Odds are a majority of you are also. Although I can picture a number of you saying that you eat more when you're stressed, and we'll get into that as well. Point being, our emotions play a huge role in pleasure and also appetite regulation. During acute stress, the body activates its fight or flight response, redirecting energy away from digestion towards the muscles and the brain to handle any perceived threat. This act reduces hunger sensations and creates physical symptoms like nausea or stomach tightness, making eating difficult for most people. It's very easy for us to use this as an excuse not to eat. For instance, I watched a reel the other day that cracked me up, and it was a person imitating these influencers online nowadays that say, I'm just so stressed today. I just can't eat anything except my iced coffee because I'm just so stressed. And it made me crack up because I've heard people like this, my coworkers even, or past coworkers at work saying these things. Oh, I haven't eaten all day. All I've had is an iced coffee. And then they wonder why they're nauseous or eating half a dozen cookies at their desk, having a sugar crash at the end of the day. This is especially true if you struggle with an eating disorder or ADHD. You're already overwhelmed by everything going on in life to the point where when you're faced with food options, the overthinking becomes unbearable. And it's easier to just walk away from choices altogether, including what to eat next. Unless maybe someone brings in a plate of cupcakes for work and then you find yourself eating either a nibble of one to a whole tray of them. This inability to decide what you want to eat next is actually a form of decision paralysis. That is where you are faced with choice overload. You have so many choices in front of you and so many other things going on in your brain that your brain just freezes and it doesn't know which out of the options to choose from. It's almost like when you go to a grocery store in America. I studied in Italy for a while. I hate saying that. It sounds so pretentious, like I studied in Italy. But I did. I studied in Italy for a while. They actually make fun of American grocery stores because we have so many options of the same exact thing. If you walk into an Italian grocery store, they'll have eggs that are fresh and maybe they'll have a couple brands of meat, but most of it is just out in the open, all fresh. You walk into an American grocery store, you have, Publix meat, then you have, my different meats, you guys. You have Publix meat, you have Kroger meat, you have Purdue, all these different brands that you can choose from that it gets to be overwhelming. And sometimes you don't know what to pick and you're just looking up on Chat GPT or Google the first option that comes up or the best option that comes up. Or you might even say, screw it, I'll get chicken next week. I'm just going to opt for deli ham that I get every single time instead and make sandwiches. That's a good example of decision paralysis. Bottom line is many factors contribute to us leaving the kitchen or the grocery store empty-handed during times of stress. But all that aside, we need to eat anyways. I can now picture those of you who eat more when you're stressed thinking to yourself, this message is not for me. I wish I ate less when I'm stressed, but maybe I should just stop the podcast here because I reach for my comfort foods and I just cannot get enough. This message is still for you, and I will tell you why. When we come down from that fight or flight response, our bodies release cortisol. This increases our appetite and also that drive to reach for sugary or fatty foods for a quick energy burst. Then the dopamine hit that we get from these foods also provide us with a temporary comfort, leading us to keep eating until sometimes we get to the point where we make ourselves sick. This can all be avoided by making sure that we continue to eat balanced meals throughout the day, no matter what state of mind we're in. Before I get into how we do that, I want to clarify that I am all for a sweet treat. If I'm having a hard day at work, you best believe my is getting out of there and going to McDonald's for a dollar ice cream cone, whether I'm hungry or not. That is called emotional eating, which is not always a bad thing. It's normal, in fact. I'm talking about when you find yourself in a distressing cycle where you're eating too little, too much, or both, and only you know what that feels like. Eating meals and snacks regularly helps our hormones to where when we do reach for that treat later in the day, the dopamine hit feels less intense and our cravings don't entirely consume us. For example, if you put chocolate on your plate at lunch and let yourself have that chocolate because you're feeling that stress during the day, maybe even eat the chocolate first and then you proceed to eat the rest of your lunch. Then later on in the day, if you're not skipping lunch altogether and saying, oh, I can't have the chocolate, what do you think is going to happen? The jar of chocolate is going to be in front of you and finally you're just going to be like, screw it, I had a hard day, I skipped lunch, I'm just going to eat the whole bowl of chocolate now. And then you feel sick and guilty afterwards. And then the cycle might even repeat the next day. I'm not saying treats are bad. I'm not saying avoid treats altogether. I'm just saying you can add a treat to your meal, which we'll get into in a moment. And that also helps sustain your energy throughout the day while also having that sweet treat that you crave. Whether you're going through recovery or simply having a hard time in your life, let's get into how to beat the food blues and keep ourselves well fed in order to handle everything that life is throwing at us. First off, remove the pressure. You have too much pressure in your life right now already. Remove the pressure of eating the right thing, of finishing a large meal, etc. Focus instead on fueling your body rather than finishing a plate. I always like to say something is better than nothing. If you sit down at lunch and you've made yourself a beautiful spread of a turkey sandwich with your favorite toppings on it, maybe you have some carrots and ranch or pretzels and hummus. Maybe you do have a handful of chocolate that you've put on your plate as that treat. You start to nibble at it. Maybe you take a couple bites of the turkey sandwich. You're like, I'm not really feeling this. Have a couple carrots and ranch and you're like, I'm kind of enjoying this more. I'm going to finish off these. Maybe I'll have a bite or two of chocolate. I'm really feeling the chocolate, but I think I've had enough of the chocolate. Take a couple sips of my drink. You don't have to finish the turkey sandwich if you don't want to. You don't have to force yourself and make yourself sick over that if your stomach is already in knots. The fact that you're sitting down to that meal and just doing what you can is the most important, and it's still going to give you that burst of energy to go on to the next thing. Personally, I think that translates over into recovery as well. Do we want to get to the point where we're finishing our entire plate? Of course, but in the beginning, if we can only get down what we can get down, that's better than just looking at the fridge and saying, I don't think I can do a whole plate today, so I'm just going to skip it altogether. Something is always better than nothing. 2, eat on a schedule and set a timer. I understand that some people, myself included, struggle with the idea of eating at the right times. For instance, another one of the unhealthy habits that I fall into when I get stressed is I start looking at the clock and think I have to eat lunch at noon, or I have to eat snack at 3 or 4. My OCD starts kicking in as that form of control, and I think if I don't eat at noon, something bad is going to happen. I know that is not logically correct, but that's what I start thinking. I understand that a lot of people in recovery, they struggle with this as well. They see influencers online who only have coffee in the morning and think, I cannot put food in my body until noon. Or influencers will say, I don't eat within 2 or 3 hours of bed. And so they think to themselves, I cannot eat after 8 p.m. They start creating all these rigid rules for themselves, myself included. I do it as well. I understand that's hard for a lot of people and you want to break that cycle. But during times of acute stress, when you're not eating at all, again, I go back to this idea of something is always better than nothing. If you're a little rigid during this time period or even early on in recovery and you need to work on more flexibility later on, that is okay in my mind as long as you are eating. As long as it's driving you to fuel your body more and not less, I'm happy with it. So same goes for myself. If I'm in a state of limbo and I'm going through decision paralysis and I'm saying, I don't really want to eat at all, if my brain is saying, I'm going to set a timer and eat at noon, whether I like it or not, that to me is better than just saying, I'm not going to eat at all. Does that make sense? So sometimes the timers will save you in that regard. As I mentioned just now, we do want to move past the rigidity, the all or none thinking, or the perfectionism eventually, because there is no right time to eat. The right time to eat is whenever you are hungry and feeling those hunger cues. But in the beginning, when you have that intense food anxiety, and even afterwards, if you go through periods of stress, you might not always get those hunger cues. It's nice to have that schedule to fall back on as needed. Without trying to beat a dead horse, if eating on a schedule gets you to nibble on a croissant with your iced coffee, so be it. I will take it. We are trying to make your life as easy as possible while keeping you energized through food. That means scheduling breakfast so you're eating before noon and not binging at night. So be it. We can work on moving past the schedule later. It's going to be hard to remove all forms of rigidity in the beginning, especially if you're still at a point of life that's chaotic and you still latch on to any form of control you can get. I'm for the schedule only because it reminds you to eat when you don't want to, and it keeps you from starting the day off with caffeine and no substance to keep your body ticking throughout the day, leading to anxiety or a crash later on in the day. For eating disorder recovery, it is recommended that you do 3 meals and 3 snacks a day, which is what I did in my personal recovery early on. Before you panic, because I know that sounds like a lot, who even does that? Remember that in the beginning, while you still have that crippling food anxiety, I personally don't think you need the pressure of finishing every single meal and snack. Personally, I've seen this backfire and then people avoid taking that first bite altogether, which is what that all or none mindset is. This idea that you either finish your entire plate or you don't pick up the fork at all. What I expect is whether you're in recovery or not, when that food timer goes off, sit down with a plate of food and just do what you can. Take a bite and see where it leads you. If it leads you to finishing your whole plate, incredible. If not, be proud that you even tried and know that your body and your mind are thanking you for it. For the next timer that goes off, even if you finish your meal or snack before, I want you to do the same thing. Take a bite of food and just see where it leads you. Rinse, cycle, repeat. The first bite, I like to say, is always the hardest. And oftentimes, after getting those initial first bites down, it does stimulate your digestive system and boost your metabolism, increasing your appetite. And you are able to finish that next meal or snack. It's just getting started. And if not, again, be proud that you took a couple bites and know that that's just more energy in your system to keep you sustained throughout the day and avoid that potential binge session later on when you hit that crash. Alex, I'm not even in recovery and I want to keep my appetite in check. Why would I want to stimulate it by eating regularly throughout the day? Why wouldn't I just save up my calories and eat my comfort foods as a reward after a long, hard day? Because, ladies and gents, then you are susceptible to the vicious cycle of under and overeating, confusing your hormones and your metabolism. I'm not saying you can't have your comfort foods. If I am having a hard day at work and I want to get off of work and with my Sunday, I want to have a couple chicken tendies because that's what I'm feeling, I'm going to have a couple chicken tendies. But I've eaten throughout the day. I don't feel the need to go and have a bucket of chicken tendies, and I'm not restricting chicken tendies entirely to the point where I do just get one taste of them. I'm going to go crazy. Instead, I have my couple chicken tendies, I have my Sunday, and I move on with my life because I satisfied my craving without restricting or labeling those foods as bad or forbidden. Restricting any food, in my experience, has never had a beneficial outcome. That's why medical professionals focus so heavily on this idea of balance in recovery. Yes, please have the chocolate, please have the Girl Scout cookies, but have them as a part of a balanced meal or snack. Have them alongside a yogurt or a spoonful of peanut butter, something to keep you satiated longer, my non-recovery people. Because if not, you might just end up sitting on the couch blindly eating a sleeve to your favorite reality show, and the next thing you know, you have a tummy ache and extreme food guilt. If you're in recovery, go ahead and do that. I'm speaking at you now. Eat all you want. Heck, I had boxes of Girl Scout cookies when I was in recovery. You just need every calorie you can get, even if you have a tummy ache, because your tummy's going to hurt regardless. But if you're out of recovery and you're trying to live a healthier lifestyle, that is a good rule of thumb. Have your cravings, but have them alongside something else. I could speak on this topic forever, and we need to move on to the next point. If you would like sample eating schedules, I did just post one on my Instagram thinking about this podcast episode, and I've already gotten a lot of feedback on it and controversial opinions, which I love. I love talking about this sort of thing. If you want some sample schedules, reach out to me on Instagram. Comment, DM me. I'm happy to talk about it with you further, help guide you in the right direction on what might be a good idea for you to start, what might be right for you. Again, I'm not a medical professional. Probably more beneficial for you to speak with a medical team if you do have one, but I'm always able to offer an opinion. Happy to offer an opinion as someone who's been through it herself. Next, calm your body and mind. Take a few deep breaths, remove digital distractions, clench, unclench your muscles, anything to help soothe your nervous system and get you back into the present moment with your body in this space and in this time. Some examples of coping strategies you can use. The first is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is, you look around the room and you count 5 things you can see. Then you move on to your next sense. You listen with your eyes closed, pick out 4 things you can hear. The next is touch, I believe. So feel, 3 things you can touch, and then smell, 2 things you can smell. And the last is taste. This is a good opportunity now to pick up your fork and do 1. Count the first thing that you taste. All of that will help bring you back into the present moment. Another one is colors. This is really popular on Instagram right now, and I've spoken about this on other podcasts before. Influencers are doing these things called color walks, where you go outside and you pick a color, any color. Pick a color, any color. It could be green, pink, yellow, blue, whatever your favorite color is. Walk outside and just notice on your walk all of those objects of that color. The grass, the green car, the green. In Florida, we have peacocks. Are peacocks green? Sure, green peacock, etc. People up north are probably like, what are you talking about, Willis? We have pigeons. Gray then. Gray can be your color. I feel like a lot of cities like New York I'm going to next week. Gray, perfect color. But you can do that at the table as well. You don't need to take a walk in order to do that. You can sit there and just look around you silently and think to yourself, my color is pink. I see a pink chair. I see pink lemonade in front of me. I see my pink lip gloss sitting over there. Count all the things that are pink, and then when you're ready, go back to your plate. Anything to just help take your thoughts out of the swirling, oh my God, this is so much food. Oh my God, what macros are in this? Oh my God, anything to take you out of here and into here. Yeah, baby, that's what we want. Next, choose easy. Keep a running list of your go-to or your safe foods and always have them stocked so that when you absolutely cannot make a decision, you at least have those to fall back on. Do we want to challenge variety and your fear foods? Of course, but we can focus on that later. Right now, we need to focus on simply getting you fed even when it's hard. What did I say before? Something is always better than nothing. I love talking about my foods that I have on deck. Who doesn't love talking about food? Whether you're in or out of recovery, I don't know, maybe some people don't. I think it's fun to talk about food. I'll tell you some of my go-to or safe foods right now. None of these are sponsored. These are just things that I have come across in the grocery store and I've given 2 thumbs up. And maybe you will too. The first is mush, overnight oats. They're these little containers of water, oats, some other forms of ingredients like banana, chocolate, peanut butter. Simple, healthy, easy to digest. That is one of my safe grabs. If I'm going for a snack and I don't know what to eat and I'm rushing out the door, I just grab a mush and it's perfect. It's satisfying, keeps me full until dinner. I love it. The other ones I have on deck, I really love yogurt with mix-ins. I like to make my own yogurt bowls at home. But again, for moments of stress or when I'm running out the door, I have Chobani flips or Oikos remixes. Those are a little lower in calories, so if you are in recovery, I would pair them with something. Even if that something is a supplement, like a protein shake or something along those lines, or a scoop of peanut butter, something really easy. But those are really good go-tos as well. I'll grab one of those when I'm running out the door, and I will take a supplement with it as well, even though I'm no longer in early recovery. I still drink supplements from time to time. We'll talk about that later as well. Other go-tos, a lot of these I also post on Instagram. So if you ever need examples, I have those in my highlights as well, which is when you click on my profile, it's under my story and above my feed. There's all these highlights. It should be in there, some of my go-tos. Another one of my go-tos right now is these pinwheels from my local grocery store called Publix. If you're down south, you know what a good pub sub is for beach days. But Publix also does really good pinwheels, which are just little wraps in little bite-sized pieces. And they have all sorts of meats. They do Italian ones with prosciutto. They do turkey bacon cheddar ones. They do chicken Caesar ones. I like to get a mix of those and keep them in the fridge. And those are a really good snack for me as well. Those are some of my go-tos, but find what works for you. Heck, if you want to keep a box of Girl Scout cookies or chocolate chip cookies and you're like, I know I like these. I know that it's something that might scare me, but it's something that I'll actually enjoy eating on my way out the door. Maybe grab that to go with you and grab a handful of nuts. Different strokes for different folks, but have things on deck that you truthfully enjoy that still give you a bit of a calorie punch that you're able to eat as you're going out the door for that quick energy. I also sat down with my dietitian when I was early on in recovery, and her and I came up with a whole safe foods list from things to order at my fast food restaurants that I always go to, things that I can turn to for dinner. I had all my breakfasts, all my lunches, my dinners, my snacks, all of them listed. And I would try and incorporate variety. But during times where I was just stuck in a spiral, I would even close my eyes sometimes and just point to one thing on the list, and that is what I would go with for dinner or for lunch or for breakfast or for snack. It's really helpful just to have a list on hand, just in those moments where if you can't choose anything, you're at least having something. With that, I am going to stop there, and then I will get into 5 and 6 and 7, and I might have to cancel my nail appointment. We'll be back. Snack break. I just finished snack, which was very delicious. What do you think I had? Because we had talked about it, I had one of my Chobani yogurts, the flip yogurts, and then I had a supplement as well. And it was very yummy. I am a little sleepy now, but that's the beautiful thing about eating consistently. My energy no longer goes in these high highs and these low lows like a roller coaster. I'll just get a little sleepy for a little bit, and then my blood sugar stabilizes and I'm good. After that, in fact, I'm more energized as opposed to those anxious trips and then the crashes. But that is what this episode is for. So on with the episode. Speaking of simple eating when it's very hard, that leads us into mechanical eating. Mechanical eating is exactly what it sounds like. Picture yourself like a robot and your job is to finish your plate as opposed to a human listening to those hunger fullness cues. This is really helpful specifically in early recovery, or if you find during periods of stress, you're sitting down at your meals and you are only taking a couple bites of every single one and you know you need to eat more, maybe you resort to mechanical eating. You sit down, you take the plate in front of you, and you finish it whether you really want to or not. Obviously, there are levels to that. In early recovery, you're going to be scared of getting sick all the time. You're going to be scared of finishing your plate all the time. Mechanical eating can come in handy in these moments because you have to anyways. Eventually, you have to get to the point where you are finishing a full plate. In early recovery, you don't want to put too much pressure on yourself because that might not lead you to get to that point where you can't finish a whole plate. You might just decide recovery is not for you and give up. It really depends on the person. Some people go all in and they're able to mechanically eat off the bat and finish their whole plate from the start. Other people, myself included, you got to wean into it. You got to start off by doing a little bit of your plate, a half, 3/4, a full, move your way up. It really depends on the person. But once you get to that point where you do want to be finishing your whole plate, mechanical eating is so, so helpful. You're in front of your plate and you're just like, I don't care. I'm going to zone out and just get through this. And then you deal with the food guilt after and you move on with your life. That's a really helpful strategy as well. Essentially, mechanical eating helps you to learn to become more aware of your internal levels of hunger and fullness. Or it simply acts as an aid, as I mentioned before, when those cues are non-existent due to times during high stress. For instance, when Austin started noticing me leaving those bites of food left on my plate, I decided to resort to mechanical eating. Was I always hungry and did I always want to finish those last bites in those instances? No, but I did anyways. Zoned out, got him down, dealt with the food guilt after, and moved on because that's what I needed to do to make sure that I wasn't relapsing back into my disordered thoughts and behaviors. But Alex, I'm confused. Do I need to put pressure on myself to finish my entire plate or no? No. But this can help get the momentum going when you need to eat and you feel like you cannot. If you're at that point in your recovery where your dietitian, your medical team is telling you it's time to start challenging those full plates and you just cannot come to terms with that, you might have to resort to mechanical eating. Or if you're in a hot time of high stress, as I mentioned before, you're only taking bites out of your plate and you realize you're losing weight and you do need to be eating more, that's another thing that can help. Maybe instead you do add a little bit of pressure. And it's not even pressure. Instead, maybe you do just zone out and you do start finishing more of your meals where you can. Bottom line, it's a balancing act. You don't want to push yourself to the point where you're not eating anything, but at the same time, you do want to push yourself a little bit to start moving towards the right direction. Everything's a balancing act in recovery. And there's no right or wrong answer for each meal. It's just trial and error. You do it, you move on. You won't think about that meal a week from now because you're focusing on the next meal. I have a couple more strategies for you. The first is drink your calories. And I do not mean alcohol because that is only going to make your anxiety worse. Believe me, I speak from experience, and that is a topic for another time. Let me explain. I know the idea of drinking your calories is scary for a lot of people. Heck, while I was eating snack just now, I do sometimes use my technical distractions these days. I was watching a reel and I saw a bodybuilder who was comparing Poppy to a Diet Coke and an apple, basically saying you don't need to drink sugary beverages like a Poppy. Instead, drink your Diet Coke, has 0 calories, eat an apple instead. Honestly, I think it's personal preference, whatever. But in this instance, again, hear me out because I think drinking your calories can actually help you. And I don't think this bodybuilder would say the same. This is why. For those of you who are in recovery, overcoming this fear of drinking your calories can be so beneficial because we do in recovery need all the calories that we can get. And this is a very easy way to add them on without adding in more food. And also, it's a quick punch of vitamins and nutrients, depending on what beverage it is, straight into your body. And we need all the vitamins and nutrients we can get. In this instance, whether or not you are in or out of recovery, I'm referring to supplementing or even replacing some of your meals and snacks, some with liquid beverages. Here are some examples. For instance, smoothies. Smoothies are amazing. I use smoothies all the time when I was struggling with gastroparesis in the beginning of recovery. I resort to smoothies when I'm going through periods of stress. They're easy to find, easy to pick up, easy to make. They're packed with nutrients depending on what you put in them. You can even put protein powder if you want a little more protein. You can mix so many things in them. Peanut butter if you need your healthy fats. There's so many different variations to make, and you can just grab them and drink them on the go without physically having to make a meal, pick up a fork, and focus on food. So smoothies are great. I think, especially for breakfast in the morning, if you're in a rush, you can even get coffee added in some of them. Like one of my favorites is coffee, banana, peanut butter, chocolate. So good. And you can just grab it and sip it on your way to work. Perfect on the go beverage for you. So much easier if you don't want to take the time to figure out what to make in the morning. Smoothies are great. Shakes you have to be careful with. There are some shakes out there that are advertised as a meal replacement, but they're very low in calories and are really not going to help you out much sustaining your energy throughout the day. Those ones are a couple hundred calories, maybe like 10 grams of protein. They're all right, but I would use those if you're going to as more of a snack and pair them with something else. Or there are some meal replacement shakes you can find online, especially Amazon, that have more of a punch, maybe around that like 250 mark or above. Again, you don't want to do this for every meal, but if it comes down to it, back to that something is better than nothing. If you're willing to grab a shake over anything else, I'd rather you grab a shake than do nothing at all. Shakes are great also because you can throw things in them. You can throw ice cream in there, yogurt, peanut butter, blend it up real quick, and then you have a little bit more sustainable energy to take with you as well. So I'm not against the shakes. I'm not saying never use the shakes, but they're a really good supplement and also replacement as you need them. Let's talk about supplementing versus replacement because there is a difference between the two. Personally, my medical team recommended to me supplementing before replacing. Supplementing is adding something to a meal. So for instance, maybe you sit down at breakfast, you take a couple bites, you're really not feeling it that day, you think you're just going to quit and give up, maybe you take those couple bites of food and then you finish off the rest of your meal by drinking a shake, having that shake on top of the food so that you're still getting in a little bit of whole food, but you're still getting in the rest of the nutrients that you need as well. You can do that for every meal in the beginning if you need to. That's what they did in the facility for us. We would eat as much of our meal as possible, and then whatever we did not eat, we would make up for by drinking the rest of the calories for that meal. That's what supplementing is. Replacing is full on, you're not eating the meal, you're just going for the shake instead. You can still do that, but I would try and supplement first if you can. It's only going to progress towards you reaching your goals more. That goes for whether or not you are in or out of recovery, because again, we're just trying to teach your body that food is coming in regularly, and we're trying to avoid those crashes later on in the day. Those are really good options for you. And before you freak out and say, it just sounds like a lot of sugar, it sounds like it's going to pass right through you, it's not, depending on what you put in there. Protein powders, nut butters, anything that's going to have a little more staying power is going to definitely benefit you. You're going to have more of that fiber and that protein in there to keep you fuller longer. Don't fear the liquid calories. Liquid calories are there to help you as much as any other calorie. Heck, there were some days, which this is an option for you too. It might sound a little gross, but it doesn't taste any different. There were days where I was struggling to eat my meal. So you know what I did? I threw it in a food processor. That's how dedicated I was to recovery. I threw my food in a food processor and I blended it up and I just ate it. I know it sounds disgusting. It was honestly not bad. Think about mashed potatoes, turkey, and a little gravy like you would do for Thanksgiving. Throw it in a blender, just mix it together and then eat it out the blender. I know it sounds gross, but don't hate on it till you try it. That's another good way to just take away a lot of the chewing aspect and just getting it down as quick as possible if you need to go that route. So they do that in hospitals too. They blend people's meals all the time. Don't hate it till you try it, I promise. Finally, it is good to engage in healthy distractions after a meal to cope with any food guilt from eating or drinking something that might have felt wrong to you. This can include a brief, and I'm talking very brief, walk before or after a meal. Maybe you use one of those calming techniques we talked about during it. You go on a color walk, you pick your favorite color. This is a good way to just take a beat before going back into your workday and facing the life stressors again. If you rush back into work or daily life right away without taking a beat, it's not going to help take your mind off the food guilt. If anything, it's going to make it worse, because then you risk mixing the stress that you're already feeling with the added stress of the food guilt. And then that leads to you experiencing more of those physiological symptoms. The nausea, the stomach upset, the heartburn, etc. Some other ideas, you can take a moment and write down your thoughts on what you were feeling before and then after the meal. You can talk with a support person or some of your support people, such as a trusted friend or family member, someone on your medical team. You can, whatever just feels right for you, read a chapter of your book or a couple pages of your book. Anything to put a buffer between the anxiety of the meal and then the anxiety of your daily life. Take a moment, relax your body again before going back into it, and that'll help alleviate some of the mind to body symptoms you may experience from the food guilt. As I mentioned, you might feel a bit sluggish after a meal, so that's another way to work through that sluggishness and then get back to work before the energy kicks back in, because it will kick back in. It just might take a moment while your digestive system is starting to kick up again and realize, oh, food is coming in. I'm going to kickstart that process. That's going to take a little bit of energy from you to get the food digested, but short-term moment for long-term benefit. Then instead of crashing multiple times throughout the day, you'll just have that little brief period and you'll come back sustained and ready to work. Hopefully more clear-minded and putting your best foot forward, but it may take time, specifically if you're in recovery, to move past the food noise, because I know that can be very loud, and that's just the way that it goes in recovery. It's going to be loud until you find your food freedom, but this is going to help you find your food freedom. I hope some of these strategies resonate with you. I always like to say with my podcast, take what you want and leave the rest. If something sounds like it's not going to work for you, no harm, no foul on me. I'm just trying to give you all the outlets as possible. I actually had some person today comment on the food schedule that I posted, and I love that she said this. She told me, I love the idea of putting sample schedules out there for people, but it also worries me because I feel like people fall into this comparison trap of, oh, maybe I should be doing what this person's doing when they might already be doing something that works for them. I get that, but trial and error with everything in recovery. Maybe you do want to try out the schedule that I put forward for a little bit. If it doesn't work for you, cool, resort back to what you were doing. But if it does help, why not test it out? I think that's the beautiful thing about recovery, but it's hard to get to that point of realizing that recovery is not meant to be perfect. It's meant to be messy. It's meant to be an experiment. It's meant to have moments of failure because you only learn from those and then come back stronger. So honestly, like in the beginning, it was scary to me, but I almost made a game out of it moving forward. I was like, okay, cool. This is an experiment. I'm going to treat it like a science project. This didn't work. That didn't work. Great. I learned from it and I can move forward knowing that my process is better. Or maybe I did learn something from someone else or another medical professional or even another influencer. Awesome. I would take that and I would incorporate it and I would just make my project stronger. My project being myself. I don't know. That's how I see things. Maybe you guys don't see things the same way, but I'm just here to try and help. And I hope that it did help a little bit today. If you have any questions for me, again, you can always comment below, send me a DM. I'm happy to discuss further or offer more solutions because I have a plethora up my sleeve. But let's move into our listener questions. I did have a long one today. I might only do one. I have been getting a lot more in my DMs. What I think I might do with that is do a full Q&A session in the near future where I answer everyone's questions because I try and do 2 or 3 a week. Unless they're a long one like this is, I think that might be a good idea. We'll see. Drop in the comments if you think that's a good idea. But I have actually a really fun episode idea for next week already. Stay tuned. Okay, listener questions. Hi, Alex. I hope you're doing well. I had a question I was hoping you can answer. My therapist is telling me I have to do intensive outpatient IOP before grad school, and I've been fine without it. I guess it's just hard to completely stop the ED-related thoughts, and my therapist wants me to seize this opportunity because I have to get my together before grad school, as she called it. Has anything similar happened to you? I understand that you would recommend that I speak with my team about this, but I was wondering if I could see it from another human's perspective. Thanks. Whoever submitted this knows me so well. Yes, I do always recommend that you seek a medical professional's guidance when determining the best course of action for your recovery. While I do have personal lived experience in this area and I have done extensive recovery research, at the end of the day, I still have not gone through the grueling process it takes to become a licensed doctor or therapist. And also, I only get a snapshot of what you tell me on your situation based off of your own point of view. It seems like you already know this, and I might just be preaching to the choir here, but I did want to throw that out there because I am happy to speak on the topic, but I also wanted to emphasize that point. To answer your question, going off of my gut reaction, honestly, this sounds like the perfect time and opportunity to challenge those remaining eating disorder thoughts before going into grad school. That way you can start your program just clear-minded and ED-free. Wouldn't that be amazing? Why not take advantage? And then also, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen, it doesn't work and you feel like you lost out on a little bit of money. Even saying that out loud, that doesn't sound true to me personally. And maybe this is a personal thing, but I feel like there's always something that you can take away and benefit from in any program that you pursue, whether that be IOP, inpatient, etc. For instance, I didn't love the recovery center I went to. In fact, it was quite the opposite. It was not the best experience if you've heard me speak on it before. But all that aside, I still took away skills and pieces of advice that I did apply to my personal recovery. Online, if I see certain aspects of someone's recovery journey that I haven't thought of myself and I trial and error that, sometimes those things work for me as well. And then I can just take those on and add them in my tool belt that is recovery. It doesn't hurt. In my mind, it can only benefit you. No, here's the worst thing that can happen. You might fully recover. And that's a scary thought, isn't it? When I went to my therapist when I was still in recovery, he told me, Alex, the thing you are scared of most is not staying in your eating disorder forever. It's really you recovering from your eating disorder. Got a little defensive. I was like, what do you mean by that? And he told me, you're afraid to be happy. You're afraid that without the disorder, this coping mechanism that has kept you numb from your emotions for so long, you're going to have to feel your emotions. And some of those might actually be positive. And that scares you because happiness can be taken away and you'd rather just numb your feelings. And I was like, light bulb moment. Like, he is speaking the truth right now. I was afraid to fully recover because I wouldn't have anything to distract me from the real world and my feelings anymore. I don't know if you're feeling the same. Maybe I'm projecting. I'm just saying, I know that's a really real fear for some people. They fear full recovery, not only for this idea of the weight gain, but then what comes after. We tend to make the eating disorder our whole identity, and that's all we focus on outside of life's stressors. It's almost like our outlet in a way, but then we have to find a new identity, a new outlet, and that scares the shit out of people. And I get that. It scared me too. But you know what? I am on that other side now, and I've seen the identity I've created for myself and found, and I've seen the outlets that I now have that are healthy coping mechanisms. And it's just a breath of fresh air. My mind is no longer swirling and time consumed by everything that is the eating disorder. I can focus on things more like studying towards aspirations in my career that I want to reach. I can do things like start this podcast and have the capacity to help other people through recovery. All these things that I am passionate about, I can now do because my thoughts are not consumed all day, every day by the eating disorder. Sounds like it's getting better for you, but it's still a little bit there. Why not go into grad school with a clear mind and put all your heart and soul into that, and then finding other things outside of that, clubs, sports, other modes of involvement that you can enjoy, maybe even things that help draw you closer to your research and your grad program. Just a thought. Why not start noodling on it? I just think it would be so nice to go into a grad program ED free, but that's just me. The decision is ultimately yours. It's not mine. It's not your therapist. It's not even your medical teams. It is yours alone. I would just say in the decision-making process, ask yourself these questions. Do you want to enter into this next rigorous stage of your life, splitting your time between your schoolwork and the eating disorder thoughts, potentially having to go back to IOP later on, or maybe even a higher level of care at that point? Or would you rather do the IOP now, get it over with, enter into grad school with all these new tools under your belt, and make further progress in your recovery? Maybe you don't recover fully, and that's okay, but then you'll have new tools in order to move forward. I don't know, just a thought. Doesn't hurt unless you try. At the end of the day, you know what is best for you, and you will do what is best for you. And I have full-on faith in you. Also, I think I know who this person is, so girl, you're gonna crush this grad program. Claps to you, bestie. That is all we have time for today. Like I mentioned, I will most likely do a Q&A session for one of my episodes in the future. Until then, thank you all for being here. This is such a nice outlet for me to have week to week, and I really appreciate all the support and little community that we have grown. It makes my heart happy. If you want to share this community with other people, the more the merrier. I'd be happy to have some more people here and engaging in the conversation. All right, I'm going to go pack for a very exciting trip that we'll talk about next time. And I'm excited for that episode as well. I hope to see you next week. And until then, be well.